Hi, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Josiah Gator, and I am the Deputy Director of Programs here at FreedomWorks. And in the new year, we've seen a couple of exciting things and a couple of troubling things. Just last week, the Chicago Teachers Union voted to not go into schools, and then several Chicago schools were closed down. We've seen a variety of schools across the country go back, which we never thought would happen, to remote learning or close for a certain amount of time with no apparent end in sight in some of these situations. So we wanted to bring in a mom, an activist, somebody who's involved in the schools in a state where we might think everything's hunky-dory, they've got a great governor. Jen Showalter is a mom in Palm Beach County in Florida. Jen, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. Now, Jen, obviously, Governor DeSantis has done a lot of great work in Florida, but we want to get a sense of what's going on in Palm Beach County. So, to start us off, can you give us a little bit of an overview of some of the good things, maybe, and some of the problems that we're seeing in Palm Beach County right now?
Right. Well, Palm Beach County is not Florida. let's put it that way. South Florida is its own entity, and we are struggling terribly with our school board. They are reinstating mask mandates again. Even though DeSantis had the executive order, we had the Parents' Bill of Rights and the first district, we still had a mask mandate in place up until recently. Then they just reinstated it this week for adults, any adult that's on campus. So we're back to fighting for individual rights for our adults. We also are fighting for comments. They are literally trying to write us out of the ability to speak at our public school board meetings. So they are doing a lot. Those are just two things, but also our performance ratings are tanking. They're really pushing critical race theory. They're discrediting parents. They're putting out ops, editorials in the newspaper.
Can you walk us through a little bit of how the board, because again, we talked about how Governor DeSantis has repeatedly said he's going to stop CRT, and at the state level, the Department of Education has set out a variety of rules. What are some ways that we're talking about mask mandates or teaching critical theories of any kind, really, whether we're talking critical gender theory, critical race theory? What are some ways that the board has been getting around that in Palm Beach County?
Well, they're literally on public record stating, quote, "We're making up our own rules now," unquote. Literally. And so they don't feel beholden to anybody. They don't think they dismiss the executive orders. It wasn't until this last bill that was signed by the legislature during the special session that got their attention. But if they can do any sort of workaround, they will. Case in point, they won't mandate masks, but they're making everybody else wear them. They have a team of lawyers who fight. They're doing lawsuits against the state, and they're also fighting lawsuits against individuals who are filing against the school board. They're throwing children into suspensions. Straight A students, squeaky clean kids are getting thrown into suspensions. You have arresting teachers on site. They have been giving trespassing notices to parents.
And this is just so sorry to jump in. So this is the enforcement mechanism that they're using. So you try to go on campus without, I don't know, a mask.
Yes. I was not allowed on campus.
Okay,
Yeah.
so to be clear, the district is trespassing parents for coming onto campus with a mask.
Yeah, well, without one, but they were also,
excuse me, yeah.
And parents who were filing Hope scholarships because they were like, my son was physically harassed for not wearing one by staff. So we pulled him. So I'm homeschooling him. But I know many individual parents who were filed for trespassing because they were questioning and stating their opinion on the mask mandate to the staff.
And you were going to say something about have you seen an uprising in people applying for the Hope scholarships? And have any of the people, maybe like yourself, who have faced issues of harassment towards your son or yourself, who have filed Hope scholarships, has that process been smooth, hopefully, or what does that look like?
Well, one of the people who applied for Hope Scholarship, the principal actually rewrote it and took out anything to do with the school and gave it back. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with the Hope Scholarship. And, we had a board member literally state, hey, if you don't like it, leave. So they were trying to hand out Hope scholarships left, right, and center. But I didn't even bother. I just said, we're out. And we left immediately. But I did want to mention about the critical race theory, because that is so prevalent. We won a small little token victory when we got white advantage taken out of the mission statement for the school district. But the whole thing is riddled with critical race theory. They have a whole division devoted to equity, diversity, inclusion, they rename everything so that say, we're not teaching critical race theory, but they're using all the terminology and they're using it in the curriculum as well.
Yeah, and the game that seems to be being played with critical race theory is to shrink the definition as much as possible and then make it a moving target so that they can continue to call us all dummies and say, you don't know what critical race theory is. It's not that, but it's not that, but it's not that. So it's this mystical, tiny definition that nobody actually knows what it is. Also, just a side note, I think I had got the wrong calling in life. The diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants get paid a huge amount of money. So I think that's my next career step. At this point, I made a bad decision. I need to go in there. And what are some measures that parents in Palm Beach County, because this is starting to sound a lot like Loudoun County. We also heard a story of a young girl, and I forget where right now, where she came off the bus or pick up at school, and they had taped a mask around her mouth. And this girl had some developmental disabilities, and they've been doing that for weeks. They were just taking it off before dad and mom could see. And this is what it sounds like happening in Palm Beach County and various issues with that. So what can parents do, and what are parents who are standing up like yourself doing to try to create and start the movement of positive change?
Well, that's a great question. And first is get educated. Don't listen to 30-second sound bites from the news. You need to do your own research. 2 is to start reaching out. There are tons of Facebook groups online. That's a great place to start. You can get involved with state, organizations and even national organizations like FreedomWorks. You guys are great at connecting people. But 3rd is just show up to the school board meetings. You're going to connect with a lot of parents and citizens that way. I know all the newbies because their eyes are popping out of their skull. They literally have told us that we're not allowed to get out of our chair unless we're to speak, asked to go to the bathroom, or leave the meeting, or we're taken out by police.
This sounds like detention to me.
It is. You can't bring in signs. You can't bring in photos. You can't talk loud. You can't clap loud. You can't stand up. You can't move your chair. You can't move to another chair. I was advocating for an elderly woman. They were segregating us by masked and unmasked. And this elderly woman needed to use the restroom. And I was advocating for her because they wouldn't let her go. And the police officer looked at me and goes, "How's your son?" I said, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Yeah, how's your son? I know your son." And I said, "My children have no incident. They're not a part of this conversation. You're not allowing this elderly woman a basic human right to relieve herself." And then they put all the unmasked people in a separate building across the parking lot. And we're not allowed to address them by name or we're thrown out. We're not allowed to disparage or say anything negative about the board or we're thrown out. They're trying to limit us to 60 seconds and only 30 minutes to an hour for total public comments each time. So yeah, they're doing a lot, but yeah. So Sophia was the little girl that has special needs girl with Down syndrome that you were mentioning before.
Mhm.
You have Fiona here in our county, who is out of school suspension, a little second grader for 38 days, total in school and out, like I think 41. There is Chris Persaud. I hope I got his last name right. He's a fourth grade teacher who's been arrested on site for not wearing a mask. So he's in litigation. We've got other students, any sort of pro-conservative, even it's not even just the mask or against critical race theory, any sort of conservative thought is being squished and squelched in our schools. I had one teenage boy who, they have Black Lives Matter flags and LGBTQ flags all over the schools. But if he put in a Trump flag or a conservative "Don't Tread on Me" flag, he got suspended. So yeah, it's a lot going on here. And the fact is, DeSantis said, we don't have mask mandates. Well, we down here had it. And,
Yep.
we were on the phone with the Department of Education. And that's another thing. Document any discrimination, any harassment, anything that you notice that's not kosher, document it and send it to the Department of Education. They have literally been flooded out into their hallways with documentation from Palm Beach County.
That's outstanding. And hopefully at the state level, under the direction of Governor DeSantis, they'll continue to look at these with all their due diligence. But what's interesting is that it seems as though they've doubled down in Palm Beach County to the same problems that we saw in Virginia with Terry McAuliffe basically saying, well, parents don't deserve a voice. And then they double down and they double down and they double down again. So it's so interesting that in Palm Beach County, they feel so safe in their positions and so high and mighty that they're saying, well, it doesn't really matter. And what's interesting is that more important than your view or my view, and I know we've talked about this, is that we just think parents' rights is the most important. Even parents who disagree with you and me, we need to be, it's not rocket science. They're the parents. The Board of Education isn't. So it's a little bit silly that they've doubled down so far. And Lord willing, with things coming up, we might be able to make some changes in Palm Beach County. And I think you laid out a lot of avenues where that can happen. And Jen, to wrap things up, can you tell people where they can reach you or find out a little bit more about the work you're doing and get involved in Palm Beach County?
Sure. Yeah. They can reach me. I actually have a website. It's votegenpbsd.com. That's votegenpbsd.com. And I'm on social media all over the place: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, Rumble. So you can find me that way as well. And honestly, the best thing I tell everybody, just show up and keep showing up. Go to rallies, peacefully attend, and don't give them any ammunition. So speak calmly. Make sure you have your sources. And just, you can speak from the heart, but just do it in a civil manner so that they don't have anything to say, oh, look, that person did this. Because that's what they do down here is we have thousands of people who are professionals, doctors, lawyers, parents, articulate, speaking out, and they get one person that is just really animated and they poster that as the parent in charge. And the other thing I would say is, we're all in this together. And if we all just unite under the umbrella that is the Constitution, despite our differences, we're going to make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on. And if you want to follow what B.E.S.T is doing and what FreedomWorks is doing, you can go to parentsknowbest.com and check out some of the work we're doing, interviews like this, resources, access to our trainings, all of that. So check out what Jen's doing, check out parentsknowbest.com, and we'll talk to you all soon.